Capes and Conundrums. El Reno is outright humming a potential theme to himself as he walks into the arena area. Stealth is not exactly over, but it is no longer a game ender to lose it, so he can have more fun. The room he has entered is a large storage area. The apparent place is a warehouse with the comic book classic of large wooden crates that are conveniently empty of things like knives or most things in general, meaning that they can be used as a break to throw someone into and not have the wall shattering imply a huge amount of harm or an automatic kill. What really brings things out is that the whole area has been vandalized and painted on the walls, floors, crates, and ceiling to make it look like a giant mushroom forest. There is a purring noise and a Feely in a skin-tight suit that presses down on her fur sways out from between several crates. She's dressed in bright purple, wearing a headband that has several of the Hatter's control cards wrapped around it and smatterings of all sorts of paints. Also, a gigantic smile on her face that's so bright it's the first thing that he can see. Never let someone drive you crazy. It's nearby anyway, and the walk is good for you. So, a Cheshire Cat woman, he asks before smiling. Ha, ha, fear not, for El Reno shall free you from the chains of your own mind. She suddenly unveils a whip that wraps around a crate which is hurled at his head. He charges clean through the wood and she jumps away in a hurry even as he crashes through the next row, all empty as he assumed. Ha ha! Fear not, little kitten. El Reno is as gentle as the beast he emulates. I'm stranger, you're stranger. Together, we are strangers, the Cheshire Cat woman says as her whip wraps around a crate and she hurls it at him. Do not fear the gentle caress of El Reno's mercy, for it is as boundless as his strength. He cries out as he outright ignores the crate and his hands close in around her. But cats are slippery creatures, and a Faily ready to rumble and deep in the axiom is harder to hold on to than smoke in a bare hand. You used to be much more, muchier. You've lost your muchness, she proclaims, still quoting the Cheshire Cat with flawless precision, even as he jumps after her. Unfortunately, the terrain is against him. While the crates are trivial for him to shrug off, they're not strong enough to support his weight, meaning that he crashes through with all the grace of a piano going down the stairs. There's a lot of grinding and scraping as he pushes away several crates, and there's a slight cough near him. The Cheshire Cat woman has the headband off. We know that hasn't hurt you, but we're going to start counting large-scale collateral as losses, understand? Do that again and lose a life, she states blandly. Oh, sorry, Recruit Hertz. How's the strangeness suiting you? Santiago asks from under El Reno's mask. Well, I know one thing for certain, she says as she puts the headband back on and smiles wide. I'm going to be driving my sisters insane soon enough. Why drive them crazy? I've heard it's a nearby walk and we could all use the exercise. Santiago jokes and Mila snorts in amusement. Now then, El Reno shall not be daunted. He is the pinnacle of power and skill. Come face me, little kitten, for El Reno is unafraid. Imagination is the only weapon in the war with reality, the Cheshire Cat woman proclaims before throwing down a crate, and as he backhands this one away, an enormous number of smoke bombs go off and coat the bottom of the warehouse in a psychedelic shade. Do you think to stain the mask? To stain the honor of El Reno? El Reno demands, before suddenly there is a shockwave in the smoke and he is revealed in the center of it. A silhouette of a well-muscled man with a horn rising upwards. He then leaps towards the ceiling high above in the warehouse and his fingers close around the girders that make up the rafters. While the thin wood and frail boards of the crates cannot support his weight, the metal girders are more than strong enough. On land or in the air, El Reno is graceful and swift, he announces as he shifts his legs and dodges a crate. The Cheshire Cat woman's whip wraps around his leg, and as she launches herself at him for the attack, he lets out a boisterous laugh and hurls himself off the rafter's legs first. In the span of about 2 seconds, he grabs the woman in a scissor hold. She wriggles out like a greased eel, and he hits the floor to roll with it and rise up with his arms to the side in an exuberant "ha ha ha." As the multicolored smoke wafts at roughly waist height, he plants his fists on his hips and turns. What a wonderful warm-up, little kitten. Shall El Reno take you seriously now? I can't know everything, she calls back, and he laughs out boisterously. Then, mid-laugh, a piece of shattered crate is kicked right at her and she's forced to dodge. As the Cheshire Catwoman lands on the next pile of crates, she has to lean back to avoid the human missile that is El Reno. She lets out a piercing yowl of shock and some pain as he grabs onto her tail instead, and then lets go as she's swung into another stack of crates. She drops down 2 levels as her claws dig into the wood and she starts climbing along the sides. Of all the things I've lost, I miss my mind the most. El Reno is fairly certain that wasn't from the cat. El Reno replies and gets a hiss in return. He then launches himself at her again. El Reno flies. She scrambles away along the side of the crates, and he turns his landing into a cartwheel and looks up at the feely clinging to the sides of the towers of crates. You have the grace of a dodo, she taunts, going off script but staying in character. Ah, so El Reno's wondrous words are reaching you. You are coming up with fresh and new insults. Ha ha, be it a battle of wits or a battle of brute might, El Reno rises. There is a pause from the Cheshire Catwoman as she looks like she's fighting mind control, but Milla is mostly just fighting the urge to break out laughing. Yes, little kitten, El Reno commands you to fight. Fight for your freedom. Fight for your own will. Be as El Reno, mighty in mind as in muscle. There's a coughing choke from the woman as she literally fights down the amusement and tries to get control of herself, which is when the luchador's hand wraps around her upper arm. About 10 things happen at the same time. The Cheshire Catwoman stiffens, which increases her grip on the crate, which means that the crate comes with them as the leaping luchador keeps moving. However, the crate was in the middle of a stack and the crates on top come crashing down and bounce before falling. El Reno manages to clasp a binder around one of the Cheshire Catwoman's wrist, and the wrestling match goes from strange to psychotic as the Cheshire Catwoman goes utterly berserk, and he pins her legs between his as he forces her back into place, and he dodges away from several clawing attacks aiming for the mask. Little Kitty should not claw at the mask of El Reno, which gets her to try and claw at the mask all the more, and he manages to grab the other wrist and he cuffs her. She then stops fighting and sighs. You. El Reno wants to know what the little kitten thinks of him, he says in an amused tone. He whistles to draw the attention of the mock croc, and she turns in a furious rage. Time for a lesson in drawling, stretching, and fainting in coils. We must care for the arts. Right here, then. Robin taunts her, and she races forward to try and pounce on him. Robin pours Axiom into his legs and stomps down on the floor, both to dodge and to compromise the base. It works too well. The floor shatters around the mock croc and she falls in. There's a pause, and then a full-size pallet of water bottles comes soaring out of the hole to outright miss Robin. The mock croc then climbs out of the hole, and Robin slams the full pallet into the mock croc to knock her back down in, and he stands at the edge as she picks herself up, and he scans the room before grinning. The pallets still have straps on them. A crocodile can easily be tangled up in such a mess. Whatever Yunda was expecting Robin to do, she didn't expect him to hop down the hole into the small basement with her. He then grins and gestures for her to charge. She does, straight into a still-bound pallet. He then pounces on her and starts tying down the mock croc, and due to the positioning of the shell, he stays out of her grip until the arms, feet, and tail are all bound up together. And that's the fastest win we've had so far. Good match, Overwatch declares, and the holograms start to fade. which frees the mock croc. You're absolutely insane to fight. He also nearly lost, Overwatch announces. You dealt a qualifying blow against him in that wrestling, and he lost another of his 3 safeties when those crates collapsed. El Reno, you have to be more careful about your surrounding environment. It is not El Reno's fault that the world is too frail to contain his mighty magnificence, El Reno protests, as the holographic room shifts and they're shoved through the doorway and re-emerge to the rest of the group. All right, we heard the shouting, so how tight are El Reno and Little Kitten now? Pavel asks, and he gets the stink eye. Robin, it is your turn, El Reno says. Do be careful. My time, it seems, Robin remarks as he walks up to the terminal and inputs his own address. 3 different locations, 3 different brainwash minions. We've had the Cheshire Cat and the Butterfly. Who's next? The Queen of Hearts? The Card Guards? The door appears and Robin goes for it. Then a massive arm crashes through the door and grabs him by the shirt. Croc! He's yanked in and hurled through the water store. Robin slams into a pile of water jugs and they break under him and leave a massive puddle he stands up in. Time for school! Time for school! The Jorgwa in Apuk tournament armor bellows and Robin dodges. Reeling and writhing! Mystery! Seography! A jug of water crashes into the massive being as a distraction. And nearly amphibious or not, the large opponent still flinches by sheer reflex. By the time Junda Death Roll clears her eyes, there's a table flying right at her face and she slams it away. Just in time for her to realize there's an issue just as Robin kicks her in the back of the knee and tries to unbalance her. Her thick and strong tail braces against the floor as she braces herself, and Robin grabs her on the side of the shell and uses it to flip her. Junda lands on all 4s and charges at Robin despite being tipped. But Robin is already ready as he jumps onto her shell as he thinks. The big woman's wrists are far too big for the binders. Far, far too big. He needs something else to contain her. Killing is much easier than containing though, so he needs to think. The mock croc shifts around and he lets her get some distance as he leaps off the shell and hears a thunk. He then stomps the floor a few times and grins. Ah, so we have a basement. Yes, a berserk creature isn't hard to outwit. Junda notes with a surprisingly dainty chuckle for a being her size. She then shrinks down and unlatches the shell and steps out of it. The woman is shorter than Robin now, where before she could toss him like a rag doll and there was no hint of axiom in it. Afraid so, but that's what a villain is, isn't it? Someone so mentally or morally compromised that it doesn't matter how many powers, how many tools, or how much training they have. In the end, they always lose because they won't let themselves win, Robin says. Even Deathstroke, Mr. Wilson? Junda teases him. Look at the man's home life. Look at his obsession with having a student. Slade Wilson has destroyed his own life nearly as thoroughly as he's destroyed the lives of others. Even if he gets exactly what he wants, it will never be enough, and he will die miserable and forsaken, Robin says as they leave the training room together. So the good guys win because the bad guys lose? More that, evil is indiscriminate and self-harm is one of its things, Robin says. Wait, how did we get on a topic that got me preaching? I'm not supposed to preach, I'm a lawyer. Junda just chuckles in response. Yes, nice to see everyone's good and happy. Now, do the 3 ladies who've been watching this entire thing have any questions while I have the microphone on? Overwatch asks out loud and all 6 people look upwards to where the nearest camera is, even while the holograms fade entirely to reveal a shimmering room made of odd but useful metamaterials. So, are you guys dating? Darkscream asks. What? Overwatch asks. Pavel, have you done the moth? Darkscream presses and Robin smacks his forehead and drags his hand down his face in exasperation.